Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. An open heart. From the battles fought to the words unsaid, through heavy burdens, the paths we tread. From the songs we sing to the fears we face, we find our strength in shared embrace. Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. Every voice, a story told. Through the new, through the old. Bound by love, the ties that bind. In every struggle, hope will find. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher.
Welcome to Courage to Converse, where we discuss tough topics, reflect on personal experiences, and explore paths for growth and understanding. Before we dive in, I want to acknowledge that some conversations may touch on sensitive or challenging issues. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or support. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available to help. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME to 741741 to reach the crisis text line. Remember, our goal here is to spark meaningful conversations while fostering respect, understanding, and personal growth. So let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the break in the podcast for the past couple of weeks. We've had a lot going on around our haunt, our nonprofit, everything going on. So today's episode, we got a few guests. Actually, a normal person here, our co-host JoJo.
Howdy, y'all.
AKA Peppy.
Peppy.
Peppercon. This is the event we've been planning and working on. Tomorrow is our final day, our final event. We had a lot of good fun going on, so hopefully if you're watching, please come and see us. We have another guest, Ellie Rogers, our makeup artist, or one of our makeup artists for our nonprofit and our haunt. Something's
SFX
going on
lead.
with her camera. I don't know what's going on here. Let me see. Oh my goodness, there she is.
And that's why she's the SFX lead.
Yes. Get a little closer to your camera. Let's see what's going on here. Down a little bit. Oh, that was perfect. There we go. So, this is what we've been busy working on. LA's been up in the studio quite a bit, sculpting what you see there,
Yeah.
working on some prosthetics. Actually, I'll let you tell everybody what you've been working on.
Just been working on, put me on the spot there, dude. Well, I'm expanding my, toolbox from just makeup to character development, costumes, props, and stuff like that. Been doing a lot of research and looking at that. Developing this is the basic stage one, I guess, of my first ever OC character that I'm creating.
OC, for those who don't know, original character.
Yes, called Madam Silkfang. And it's the first time that I've sculpted something and then was able to make a silicone mold out of it and then cast it with the homemade SFX gelatin that I make.
Right.
And then apply it. I was telling Dakota, the other makeup lead, that I made, this is probably the third time I've made prosthetic pieces. I've never applied one though.
Right.
So it was the first time applying it and stuff and painting it. So I
So
love
for
it.
those of you who don't know, like she sculpted this out of clay, molded it with silicone,
Mhm.
and then poured the mold with some gelatin,
SFX gelatin.
SFX gelatin, and all of that is applied with adhesive to her face,
Yes.
and then she's painted it. She's that look. But there's some other stuff to it that she's still working on, but pretty impressive for some of the stuff that she's got going on. You know, self-taught, pretty amazing. And
All the
this
things
is
are
one of the reasons
hand glued.
she's part of the makeup team here at Hunt for a Cause and Terror on Highway 127. So, but again, I apologize that we've been, you know, kind of absent for the past couple weeks, but it's been for good cause, good reason. This episode, we're going to be focusing on previous topics that we've talked about in the past. That's why it's called Circle Back. And we just want to touch on previous topics because a lot of things can't come up after each topic each week. When we talk about it, you know, internally, and you talk about it, you know, people on Facebook and just text and all kinds of different things. So we want to touch on some of that and then see if anybody has any questions or anything like that. Can one of y'all monitor Facebook and see if we got any comments or questions like that, and we can get to those? And I'm monitoring YouTube over here. So before we get started, I also want to mention the Tattoo Expo that's coming in May. Inked Nation, bring your friends, bring your family. You can get tattoos live there. Our organization, we're actually going to be giving free temporary tattoos to kids and even the adults who are not ready to either get a tattoo or don't have the time or even the funds to do so. We're also going to be demoing, or LA is going to be demoing SFX makeup, you know, to kind of show her craft, what she's done and what she does, you know, during the haunt. She's going to be applying makeup and SFX and things like that to people. Within our organization, she's not doing it to people there. She's just
Right.
demoing it. And then we're just going to showcase what we got going on. We're actually going to go live with the podcast there.
And Dakota will be too.
Yep, Dakota's going to be there. Smiley, he's our makeup and SFX room lead, and he's going to be there helping doing makeup. And is he doing makeup or is he doing SFX?
No, I'm the SFX lead. He's over the makeup and costuming.
Right, but is he going to be doing anything?
I'm not. I mean, he and as far as I know, yeah, he's.
Okay.
If nothing else, I'm pretty sure he's planning on painting up as Smiley.
Right. So look for Hunt for a Cause. Look for the makeup booth, the SFX. LA's going to have a banner there. We're going to have all, you know, displayed and everything going on.
When do I get to see this banner?
You have the banner. You gave me the picture for the banner. It's just not made yet.
Oh.
The picture you sent me, that with the makeup brush or the makeup splatter and all that.
Okay. I got you.
That's the banner that's going.
Why don't I just bring the one I have at home?
Because it's got to be custom fit for that. Because it'll
Oh,
be
gotcha.
Velcro to that booth and all that good stuff.
Oh, wow. It's going around the booth?
Yes.
You make me all professional.
That's what you are, right? That's what we are. That's the way we do things around y'all. So, all right.
Go big or go home.
That's right.
Right?
And you notice JoJo's got a Terror on Highway 127 jersey. We got some of these things, types of things will be on sale for merch. JoJo's got a hat on. I got a hat on. We got hats and all that for sale now for merch and everything. And every bit of what we do and raise goes towards our causes, the local social issues going on here in Warner Robins, Middle Georgia, Kathleen, Perry, Macon, all these areas here. So let's jump into it. So the first topic we talked about was, you know, you can't say that, you're a man, right? You know, it talks about the stigma behind men's mental health and everything like that. A lot of people came back and they appreciated the content. They appreciated the feedback because there is a stigma around mental health. And a lot of times men, I think really, you know, thinking about it, a lot of times men hold the stigma to themselves, right? And that's kind of where the additional topic came on later on about the silent
Right.
the silent depression and things like that.
High
hidden
functioning depression.
High functioning depression. That's what it was titled, actually. And I know when I was struggling, that it's never 100% gone. The struggles that we deal with, the depression and the thoughts and things like that. But these types of things that we're doing here has tremendously helped. We were out there setting up for tomorrow's event and everything. And I was literally thinking, like, we all get together and we talk, holding each other accountable. The iron sharpens iron thing. I can't tell it enough, everybody out there. It's important to have a tight circle. Even if you have a tight circle, you're still going to have problems.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but the way we handle those things is what matters, right? If we want to get, I guess we can say, butt hurt,
Right.
and take it offensive and hold on to that, whose problem is that? We talked about that, right? Your problems versus our problems.
Yeah.
That would be my problem. If I'm holding on to it and I don't want to go confront it, that's my problem, and I'm doing that to myself.
Right.
Now, take that to somebody else and talk about the problem. If I have a problem with you, JoJo, and we've had this, right?
Mhm.
I'll go to you and I'll be like, hey, what's going on? We got to fix this now.
Right.
And you've done the same thing to me. Like, you've called me out. And with this whole circle right here, right? We've had, over the past month and a half, if you guys don't mind, be a little transparent with things that have gone on. I won't go into full details, but, we've had some struggles within our team. And, LA was on podcasts, and she wasn't on podcasts, and then she was on podcasts, and now she's back, right? We all had these personal struggles that we were dealing with, right? And I just got chills thinking about this, because, and my wife, Amanda, has, like, over the past month, and it's been 2 months now, right? It's been close to 2 months.
Yeah.
The growth that we all have had, I think, has been tremendous. But it is confronting these problems, because that's what they are. They're problems. And if we hold them in, it only hurts everybody around. Right? Because if you don't come to me with a problem that you have with me or anything else going on or around, how am I supposed to know that anything?
Right. You're not a mind reader.
Right. But then again, sometimes we gotta, if it's a problem, I gotta think about it. Like, is this a problem? Because I've done this recently too. We talked about this today. Other people's actions bothering me, but then in the end, am I the one that is holding those in and making them grow bigger?
Right.
Because I am not talking about them. Right. So sometimes we got to put ourselves in check as well, not just other people checking us. We got to put ourselves in check.
Self accountability.
Right.
No, and sometimes you have to put yourself in timeout.
Yep. And we had that last weekend with our event, right? Like, I got frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. And because we put a lot of planning into this event, and, there's a lot of moving parts to these events, and, you're doing things, I'm doing things, we're planning, what's going on, I know what's going on, but then we have our own ideas. So then we start doing things, and I got frustrated.
Right.
And I had to slow myself down and excuse myself from the situation, and just understand, like, wait, this is the first time we're ever doing this event, right? We're actually doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting good feedback. Yes, there's problems, but we can't let our internal frustrations cast out onto everybody else.
Right.
But we do have to confront them with whoever the problem's with. Because if not, again, it's going to continue to grow. And you're not a mind reader. There's no way you would have known that I was frustrated until I blew up, right? And you've come to me like, are you okay?
Right.
Are we good? And most of the time, every time actually you've come to me like that, it's been, I've just focused in deep thought.
Right.
Because any time that I've had a problem, I've come and talked to you about it, right? And we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Now, other people's problems coming into and all that, people have to come to us and talk about them, and not talk about them behind,
Right.
On the outside, because that's another problem that causes problems, and that will cause additional frustrations if you're talking about problem over here, but you got a problem with this person, but you can't confront them about it. That's going to build frustrations, and those frustrations tend to build into and add on to people's depression,
Right.
frustrations,
Mhm.
which builds onto that depression, right? And I don't know if y'all can tell, none of this is scripted because I'm going way off the handle here on many different things, but that's the way my mind works. So, do you have anything to add on to that, to piggyback onto that at all?
Well, it's just like what I say to people all the time. You know, you cannot control anybody else's behavior. You can control how you react to their behavior. You know, if Joe is frustrated and he's got that look on his face, it's let him process, let him do his thing. If I, go right to him with it, it's like,
Right.
give him that time, give him that space. You have to get to know each other. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
That's what we're trying to get everybody to
That right out of
understand
my
out
mouth.
here.
Well,
Get to know each other.
yeah, because like the issues that we had, like if there's public out there watching or anything like that, and don't know like the situation going on with our environment, our crew and everything like that, we had an issue in our makeup room, right? Kind of self-inflicted. It was the first time we've ever really done it, and there was a lot of tension in the makeup room, a lot of aggression, a lot of, that's what it seemed like from the outside, right? And it was all being thrown onto LA, where LA's been dealing with her own things. That's for her to speak to. I'm not going to speak to any of that. But nobody else was seeing and knowing those things, and then she lashed out in their eyes, right? If they knew LA, they would not know. They would know that she was not intending to hurt anybody's feelings, and she would never want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? So I'm going to let you speak to that, because if we don't get to truly know each other, like the image, like tattoos, and like that image might speak and build stories in their minds. You know what I mean? So
You perceive something that isn't there, or
Right.
I just brain's going blank.
well, we didn't plan for this one.
No,
But that's what I like to have unscripted.
I think communication. Everything comes back to you've got to learn, whether it's with friends, whether it's with family. Communication is important, and I wasn't communicating. I felt like I had the whole weight of the makeup for the haunt on my shoulders.
Mhm.
And people weren't listening. I was trying to. Your words to me that night before were, "This is your room.
Right.
You handle it." But nobody was listening, and it just got to the point where I didn't physically lash out at anybody. I just yelled
Mm-hmm.
and got made some people uncomfortable. But at the same time, and it was an issue. It made them uncomfortable, and they dwelled on it instead of coming to me
Right.
and speaking to me about it. They they went to Joe, or they talked about it with so and so or whatnot, and they weren't communicating either. I wasn't communicating either.
Mhm.
There was that divide was there. But at the same time, I still feel like, because everybody was like, you yelled at them, you can't be aggressive, you got to control your anger. Nobody, I still feel like nobody was looking at it from my point of view. Like I'm not by myself. I had Olivia and I had Abby, that were the other makeup artists. But I'm by myself running the makeup room. I've never even been in a makeup room before.
Right.
You didn't know. You couldn't give me any advice on running it because y'all never had one before.
Right.
And then the airbrush gun. I had touched it 4 times
Right.
before I used it for the haunt, and it was clogging and it wasn't working, and we were down to the wire, and people were coming in, stopping it, needing my attention for stuff, and it's just like I just got overwhelmed and I snapped, and and I didn't even realize
Very
it.
high stressful environment. But
It was
if y'all have not seen anything behind the scenes for any type of event like this, there's a lot of work going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's a lot of last minute things. No matter how much you plan, no matter how much you work, because if you plan it and you're like, oh, we're gonna get this and done, and you get it all done, you're like, oh, let's add this.
Right.
No matter what you say or do, it's going to happen. So the added stress, right? And everybody, it's perspective matters, right? People
Mhm.
just see, oh, she's yelling at people and all that. But in the end, high stress environment, she's got a deadline. We start at such and such time. You got all
Right.
these people coming in, and you got sodas being laid.
People
around
were
everywhere.
late, and they were, you know,
And then
it
they're
was
wanting
a
to
small
hang out in
space,
there.
and they were crowding, and I asked multiple times, y'all, if you're not getting your makeup done or doing makeup, please exit. You know, get out of the makeup room.
Mhm.
And
It gets hot in there. and it's just-
it goes back to the same thing that happens as being a parent. Sometimes people don't listen until you scream.
right.
You know, sometimes they don't listen until you raise your voice. And was that the proper way to handle it? No, it wasn't. I didn't even realize that, like, we had a meeting, I think, the next day or the next weekend or something like that. Monday. It was the Monday after. We had, like, a makeup room meeting or whatever. And, like, I was like, well, at least I didn't cuss when I screamed. And they were like, yeah, you did. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't. I was so stressed out that I didn't even realize that I had screamed the F word. You know what I mean? Get the F out of the makeup room if you're not getting your makeup done or doing makeup. I didn't even realize that. That's how stressed out that I was. Like, I lost control, basically. But when you came to me, instead of them, when you came to me, and I found out the direct person that I affected, I went to them personally and apologized. And then the next meeting that we had as a group, I stood up and apologized, you know? And I held myself accountable and, you know, made it self-aware of my anger issues and, you know, not really anger issues, but my stress level and getting overwhelmed easily. I became more self-aware of that. And for the rest of the haunt season, like, I kept my cool, you know? But I also had support from people who had gotten to know, like, Gabby. Gabby knew, like, okay, well, she snapped because she's stressed out. So when I would, later on, when I'd start getting, you know, she could tell I was getting worked up. LA, let me do it. You go take a break. Go smoke. Go take a break, you know? Go take 5 minutes, you know? I'll handle it, you know? And that's teamwork, you know? When one person's overwhelmed, overloaded, you know, you gotta help pick up the slack.
Right.
But again, I do the same thing for her.
We talk about all this because of the whole conversation about the podcast episode, empathy.
Yeah.
Right? Put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand where they're coming from. Right? We all have a story, no matter what. If you see the work that this girl is doing, like, this is all self-taught. It's a lot of stress that she puts on herself, but look at it. It's amazing, right? And people just need to understand that it's not easy to do this, especially on somebody else. When you have a timeline, right? You're coming in, everybody's working, everybody's got school, it's completely understandable, right? But no matter what matters in the end, the team pulled through.
We pulled through. Even that night, you know, where I lost my cool. Again, I didn't even know it happened. It didn't even register in my brain as something to remember until you talked to me about it the next day, you know?
Right.
And I felt absolutely horrible about it, you know? And I went to that person. I'm not going to name their name because, you know, it's between me and them. And I apologized, you know, and I was like, I was stressed out and I lashed out at you and that wasn't fair, you know? And then when we had the meeting, I apologized for screaming, you know, at everybody to exit the makeup room. But on the upside of that, I think people realized how stressful that room is for us. And we've had, since that night, we've had hardly any issues with people hanging out, you know. And we don't mind people hanging out if we're not busy. But if, you know, we're in a small room, we've got 4 makeup stations, we've got 4 makeup artists, and then we've got 4 people in chairs getting done, you know, and we're all crisscrossing, grabbing supplies and stuff. And then, you know, it was in your garage, so we had the mobile AC unit, but it got hot really fast.
Right, yep.
You know, and people were coming in and they would leave their bags, you know, and it's like, this isn't your locker room, this isn't your break room.
Right.
You know, and it
built tension.
It built tension, it built frustration, it honestly, I feel like, looking back, you know, it probably made us feel, well, I can't speak on the other makeup artists, but on me, it made me feel like, you know, they don't respect the work that we're putting in because they're treating this like it's their locker room, you know, like,
right.
They don't understand that, you know, we need to be able to concentrate. We need, you know, we don't, if it's not important, don't interrupt us when we're in the middle of painting somebody, you know, we've got to concentrate on what we're doing and, you know, have some respect for the makeup room. But we've established rules now because, again, that was the first night.
Right.
we've established some rules in the makeup room that, boundaries that everyone's aware of. Like if you're not getting your makeup done or doing makeup, don't hang out in there. Not allowed to bring food or drink in there unless you're the makeup artist, because on a hot night, I'll start in chair 3:30 to 7, and just pick up if you need to borrow something from the makeup room, that's fine, please return it and stuff like that.
Right.
And I also feel like me exploding kind of opened up, I don't know, I feel like it helped me bond with some of the people here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, we've made it a point, to tell everybody. Like, I know I made it a point to tell everybody, get to know each other.
Oh yeah.
Hug the person next to you, talk to the person that get to know them. And I think Kevin said it best. Like, if we all really know each other, when someone is having a moment, they're gonna know they're having a moment. Just chill out.
They're outside themselves.
This is not normally how they are, right? Or maybe they are, like a passionate personality.
Call it aggression. I call it drive.
Oh, I love this song. Maybe they are, but that's like I'm a pretty tense, fast paced, and I talk, and some people may see it aggressive or whatever, but there's a difference between that and when I'm angry,
right.
When I'm mad, right? So if you really know the person, you're gonna know the difference, right? And that's, again, the empathy, understanding that person, where they're coming from, how they are, where they've been, you know what I mean? And what do you say? You got to meet somebody where they are.
Oh, where they are, not where you expect them to be.
Yeah, everybody has a story.
Right.
You never know what everybody's going through in life, right? So if they're having a moment, take the time and talk to them, because that little bit of talk or asking might change their mood. You know what I mean?
I mean, everybody processes things differently. Everybody handles situations differently. We all grieve differently.
Trauma, grief, happiness, every one of those.
Oh yeah, we all celebrate differently.
Mm-hmm. So,
can you see that?
Yes.
No on there. Can they see that?
Hold on, there's a delay.
No, the green's going away, but you can kind of see it. You want me to? There we go. There's a glare on it. Yep, that's Pappy.
Good old Pappy.
That's our Pappy leprechaun. That's actually JoJo.
That's LA's work.
Yes. If you go on my Facebook or YouTube, you'll see the videos, and TikTok. You'll see the videos of the work that everybody's putting in, and it's just a good old fun time. And it is a lot of work, And
it's something that nobody is doing.
Right.
And something for this time of year. But living in the Bible Belt, we're not going to do the Easter thing.
Right.
Even if we did a horror Easter bunny or something like that, it's just not.
Some things you just don't do.
Yeah, it's just in poor taste, apparently. So, but this is just a fun way of, engaging the community and giving everybody something fun to do in the sunshine, in the fresh air. Bring your family, bring your friends, and for the price. I mean, if you go to an escape room, you're paying $30 to $50 a person, and you may have 3 rooms that you have to get through. There's 10 stations you have to get through outside.
Right.
We're using 2.5, maybe 3 acres of land to do all this. So it's an adventure in itself, and you've got leprechauns chasing you. You got Pappy running around.
It's a full-on experience.
Absolutely.
You go to jail. You get frozen.
It's an outdoor escape room. And you have characters interacting with you.
Mm-hmm.
I need to step away and figure out how to blow my nose with all of this stuff on.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Stuart says, "Hey all." Stuart.
That's Tyler's father.
I put myself in full checkmate often. I understand that, brother. I mean, that's sometimes we have to do that because they always say the first step is recognizing, right? And if we can recognize that we are the problem, then, or we have a problem, then, the good first step is recognizing that and moving forward, changing that. How do we, and sometimes you just got to recognize it and go talk to somebody about it. You know,
Or pull yourself out of the situation at that moment until you get yourself back, in the right frame of mind
that's what I try to
to
do.
be able to talk.
Yep.
Or else we say and do things that we regret when we could
Right.
minimize that, by pulling ourselves out of the situation to begin with.
We talked about in the past, when you're getting mad in arguments and things like that, and after the argument's done, later on you go back and apologize. I didn't mean to say that. Well, you meant to say it at that moment. You absolutely meant to say it, or you wouldn't have said it.
Right.
So it's just, and it's recognizing that sometimes, like we talked about, pull ourselves away, but sometimes the counterpart in the situation wants to solve it now, and that sometimes causes additional problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So we got to be able to check our mouths and the pressure that we're putting on the situation, because is it adding fuel to the fire unnecessarily? If we think about it, more than likely, yes. Right? There shouldn't be any situation in life that isn't resolvable, or, some type of agreement, to move forward. So, man.
I want to apologize to everybody listening that has to sit through my sniffles. I made this makeup where I could eat and vape, but I did not think about blowing my nose. So
we're going to have to do some type of catheter or something.
No.
Through your nose.
No. It's just, everything's blooming right now here in Georgia.
When you're talking,
so
I literally sit here, and the teeth, they fit perfectly.
Yeah, I know. I did it that way.
It's badass. Straight up badass.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about, the evolution that this whole circle around this property has come. You know what I mean? The progress we've made. I don't know if it's the podcast. I don't know if it's, Amanda tells me the podcast helps her a lot. I think the podcast has helped LA a little bit. I know it's helped me, talking through things, right, and hearing the feedback from other people afterwards. That's why we're doing a circle back thing, right?
Absolutely.
Can we talk about the last situation that happened, with you and Amanda and everything like that? Can I? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Well,
there's personal stuff in there that doesn't need, that's
Right.
irrelevant.
No.
Okay.
No, I'll let you. So I'll just say that there was some situations where, like I said, LA was here, LA was gone. She excused herself, from the haunt, and then realized, or not the haunt, but the organization and the team and the family, out of a reactionary thing, right? But then came back and was like, I don't. That's not what I really wanted to do.
I reacted emotionally instead of processing it and giving it time and, thinking it through and like, how should I handle this?
Right.
And I mean, yeah,
There was a situation where she thought that Amanda did not want her here, right? And that was not the case. But LA, when she finally came around, and I won't say finally came around because that sounds bad, but she realized she didn't actually want to be. She wanted to confront the situation with Amanda to make sure that, do you want me gone? Because if you want me gone, I don't want to make you and your family uncomfortable.
Well, this is her home. The haunt is on, her property. I'm not, I care deeply about the both of you. I don't want to be an issue. You know what I mean? I don't want to cause stress between the two of y'all. I don't want to cause a stress between, JoJo and stuff. And like, if I feel like I'm causing an issue, I'm going to remove myself,
Right.
But that wasn't the right way. That's not how I should have handled it. I shouldn't have just been all like, okay, well, I'm done. That's a trauma response. That's, self-sabotaging and cutting ties because, you hit me in my trigger spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I come to realize that anger is a secondary emotion, and a lot of times the emotions that are below the anger are not even relevant to the current situation, And so what I heard was, you just spent this last year and a half telling me that I'm part of the family, that I, we'll always be here for you. If you ever need to talk, you come talk to me, I got you,
Mm-hmm.
and I wholeheartedly felt that,
Right.
and we're weird. Our brains, I understand how you think and you understand how I think,
Right.
and it's weird, like, because we'll call each other out on stuff
Mm-hmm.
randomly. It's cool. But it's weird at the same time. But like, instead of my response should have been, well, what does she need from me to feel comfortable? What boundaries does she need me to set? And if it's not like unrealistic, then why can't I accommodate her?
Right.
I wouldn't be losing anything. You know what I mean? Like, but that's a logical response. And when you hit my trauma, my triggers and stuff, emotion takes over, and I'm in counseling. I have 2 counselors because I'm that messed up. But in one of them I'm doing EMDR therapy, and I'm learning.
What's EMDR?
It's eye movement is something or another. Basically, when you address trauma in the past, a lot of times your body like it struggles to separate the memory of what you felt at that time as a memory and not how you feel right now in that moment. So it's like,
Are you building a story based on previous experiences at the present time?
well, your emotional response is based off of, like, I'm trying. Okay, you get cheated on by an ex, and you're triggered in that moment. You're in a relationship with somebody who's not cheating on you. They're not doing anything wrong, but they do something that was a red flag with your ex. And even though they're not doing anything wrong. They don't mean it the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? You get angry and you get mad because your body remembers the feelings you had the last time this event happened, or something similar happened. And what it is it's triggering something other than anger. It's usually with cheating, it'd be like, I'm not worth it, or,
Right.
insecurities and stuff like that. For me, with the situation, it was, I'm not worth being a part of the family. Like, I'm not good enough to be part of the family, because I don't know. I don't know. That just it hit me. That's what it made me feel like. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough to be part of this family.
Right.
And I felt lied to and I felt betrayed.
Right.
Because I was vulnerable. I did open up. We've had some in-depth conversations. Nothing, that we shouldn't talk about or anything like that. But we've had in-depth conversations and stuff. And I didn't have a relationship with Amanda, not because like I didn't like her or anything like that. We just, when I'm here, it's usually because of haunt stuff, and we're going 2 different directions,
Right.
and she's, I'm in the makeup room, and then DJ booth, and she's at the ticket booth. You know what I mean? So the situation definitely made me realize that I need to make effort to get to know other people
I'm
in the
glad you
haunt.
took it this path because that's where I wanted it to take it.
Right.
Because
But
keep going.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It like I felt like I got kicked to the curb and I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And it hurt. Like it was not an easy month and a half for me at all.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of positive came out of it
Oh yeah.
in the end.
Oh, for everybody.
I'm so glad that I reached out and asked Amanda if we could sit down and talk.
And Amanda is too. Like literally right before I came up here, Amanda called me into the living room and she said, LA came down here, gave me a hug, talked to me about situation, and she's like, I'm so proud of her. And like that relationship that goes back to the point of empathy. Get to know somebody, actually know them. If you knew what's going on in somebody's life, or not just, you don't even have to know like the innards of everything, but if you actually knew the person, life would be so much easier. Like when they're out of their norm, sometimes someone needs that hug or whatever, right? But on the other side of that, like I reacted during that situation, right? Because Amanda was coming at me like, well, why do you have to talk all the time and all these things? Like, well, I'm here, I'm telling people I'm gonna, and she's like, well, why doesn't she talk to somebody else? Whatever. I was like, you don't want to talk to her anymore. I'm not going to talk to her anymore, right? It's not what I wanted to do. but
It was reactionary.
It was very reactionary, but also to respect my wife. I felt at the time I needed to do it, right? We just mentioned this a minute ago. I'm sorry for the things I said. I didn't mean it. No, I absolutely meant it, because like I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it. You know what I mean? So, but out of all that, the growth between Amanda's mindset's completely different too. Not just with the whole, relationship with LA and everything, but like
All the way
everything that
around.
she's doing,
I'm proud of her.
For those
Oh,
that
incredibly.
don't know, Amanda has cerebral palsy, and she's been struggling with her balance and walking and everything like that. However, prior to 2 months ago, this is about 2 months now, right?
Mhm.
Prior to 2 months ago, she would have said, fuck it, I'm not walking, and you're not going to make me walk. Now, she's the one getting up and walking, saying, I'm going to keep walking, and she's fallen. We've gone to the doctor for neurology and all that stuff, but she's doing her own physical therapy. Well, she's planning on starting the gym and everything. She was going to today, but something happened, and she got extremely frustrated and a lot of anxiety, and she needed to calm herself down and handle the day. Where in the past, she would have just vegged out and, done whatever she did or didn't do. And now, like, I don't know if it's the podcast. I don't know if it's, the whole situation, holding each other accountable.
Well, I think when all of that happened, that cascade effect checked in. And, we got to one of the root issues too, where it wasn't necessarily LA. That wasn't the issue. It was whoever was monopolizing your time at that moment,
right,
in time, is where the set off was.
Right.
It could have been me. It could have been Chucky. It could have, whoever.
Right.
But it was going to manifest itself somewhere.
Right.
So once we isolated that and realized, okay, this is what the root of this was.
The root cause.
But look at, how that flowed down this river, how it's affected the people in that path. You're flooding this all out, and now what are we left with? There's all this destruction and feelings of, I don't belong, I'm out. You don't want me here. That hit Amanda's heart. And she didn't want that. She didn't feel that way. But at the time, like, how do you relay that, when nobody's really talking to each other, kind of thing?
And then LA comes around and
says, let's have a meeting. Let's sit down. I want to know, if you want me out, I'm going.
Right. And I'll be honest, I probably didn't word that the best way that I should have, because I straight up came at her. I was all like, hey, do you want me gone or not?
Right.
Because if you don't want me gone, then I would like to come, one day this weekend, sit down and talk and see what we can do what boundaries we need to set to, make sure everybody is comfortable and happy.
Right.
And
see, and that the important thing is that it was confronted, though.
Right.
Yeah. That is the most important thing.
Took some. I had to wait until I wouldn't. I have to think things through, and sometimes I have to wait to get to that point where I'm able to think about it,
right,
because
right,
it's so emotionally it's overwhelming or it's upsetting, and so that's when I put it in my little box, and it's like I'll deal with that when I'm ready to deal with it, And so I gotta have time to process and really truly think about my feelings, and really truly, especially now after I'm learning how to process emotions and acknowledge them and cope with them. I have to sit there and decide, well, is my point, or my feelings are valid, but are they accurate? Do they fit the situation? Like anyone in my situation, and that would have felt like, well, okay, but you said we were family, a week ago, and now you're kicking me to the curb. It doesn't make any sense,
Right.
But it wasn't that y'all never once told me to go. I made that choice based off of my emotions, off of my feelings, because it triggered, the trauma and the self-worth, and I'm not worthy of love
Right.
for me, But on the other end of the spectrum is it helped me. It made me realize that I put don't take this the wrong way, but I put too much stock in my own self based off of what y'all thought, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a couple sessions with the therapist, you know, I worked it out and I realized, you know, even if I couldn't, you know, even if I couldn't be, you know, we couldn't be as close friends as we are or whatnot, you know, if she doesn't want us to communicate or she doesn't want, you know, which I understand, that's your wife, you know, I'm going to respect whatever it is that she asked me to do. But there's still other people here that I care about.
Right.
I'm not preventing anything from happening. I'm turning my back on
And
it.
that's what hurt me at the time, because I was one person. You got JoJo, you got, you know, Tanya, you got all these people who are still there. You know, at the time, my reaction was, "You don't want me talking to her? I'm not talking to her. I gotta go. We can't, you know." And that, you know, we talk about putting the feelings virtually out on the table and picking out the reality of them.
Right.
You know, and like building a true story as opposed to what we've built in our head. You know, get all that shit out of our head, put it on the table, and then slowly pick out. You know, but along with that, that night that all happened and everything, you know, Matt and I had a pretty decent blowout. Right, we had a lot of conversation. Like, I'm here telling everybody exactly what you said. I'm here telling you, I'm here for you. Talk to me and all that. And then I got to tell you that I can't help you anymore. I can't talk to you anymore. Right. I was telling Matt, like, I don't feel like you support me in what I'm doing. This platform we're trying to do, you know, with the nonprofit and the podcast and everything. Since all this happened, it's literally the exact opposite. I've never felt the support that I have from Amanda. We're doing the podcast tonight because of Amanda. She is telling me, like, this will be the third week you do this podcast, and you feel very strongly about this. You need to do this. I know you got a lot going on, but you need to do this podcast, because she said it helps me. You know, so if we're helping one person, to me, we've said it the whole time, that's what matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it does help me to talk about these things, right? Like, we get to know each other a little more. We get to see each other's vulnerabilities and stuff like that. And like, we get to know each other. So you see that he said pencil and a tissue just showed up there.
No, you.
Eye movement desensitization.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to look that up.
Desensitization.
I'm sorry.
And
I got
reprocessing.
Reprocessing.
Yes.
That's what EMDR is.
Yeah. And basically, it's a mental distraction. So, like, we'll be discussing a traumatic event from my childhood, and she'll ask me, like, where are you feeling, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? And, you know, 10 being
The
bad.
worst.
Yeah. And, I mean, my childhood was what it was. So a lot of times, those feelings, because I haven't processed them, they're a 7 or 8, easy. Sometimes they're a little above, sometimes they're a little below. And what it is she'll have me just sit in this feeling, feel this feeling. And 30, 45 seconds, I'll be sitting there, and she can have buzzers that vibrate. They don't, like, shock you, they just vibrate, and you hold them in your hand, or she'll tap, like, one knee, like that. She's got paper clips that you have, like, she does that with her teenagers, but, like, she makes them put them together in a certain order. And so while they're thinking about these feelings and emotions, their brain is also working on something else. And it's almost like it flips a switch and makes you realize, I don't have that fear right now. You know what I mean? I don't feel unsafe. I don't feel vulnerable, like somebody is going to attack me. I just remember that feeling. It's a memory.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we'll do it, and, you know, she'll stop me for a second. She'll take a deep breath. You know, what came to your mind? Because a lot of times you start thinking about stuff on your own, and you're like, oh, well, I realized my last session with her, I realized that a lot of my anger that I have towards my mom isn't actually anger. It's resentment.
Right.
You know? And, you know, I came to that conclusion in the middle of the EMDR session or whatnot. And, but, and then she'll be like, okay, well, sit with these feelings again in another 30, 45 seconds. And I have not had to do it more than twice before I'm at, like, a 2 or 3. And it's just, it's helped me because it's given me the tools to, with my husband, with my son, you know, with friends, to stop and don't take it. Emotions aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts, you know?
They're valid,
They're valid, right?
but they are not.
But they're not
facts.
facts. You know, you need to stop and process the situation and think about it.
Yep.
Did that person mean to, you know, make you feel like you're not worthy? Did they tell you that they don't want you there? No, they didn't. They just said that, you know, Amanda wants some boundaries, which is fine. You know, I understand that.
Well, on the other side of that, she actually told me, no, I support what you got going on. So if you need to talk to her and she needs to talk to you, that's what y'all need
Yeah,
to
when
do.
we sat down and talked, and you know, JoJo, because it ended up being all four of us instead of just me and Amanda.
Mhm.
But JoJo was like, "So what boundaries do we need to set, guys?" And Amanda piped up before anyone could. Was like, "None. You know, they're not doing anything wrong, and I support him wanting to build this platform." And
But at the same time, you needed the time. She needed that time
Oh, yeah.
at the time of the process. So the waiting and everything. But again, the important thing, I
it
think,
comes back to empathy, though, and you don't have to agree or disagree with somebody, but if you can understand their point of view,
Right.
their perspective, because we can look at the same event and perceive it completely different.
100%.
You know?
Well, that goes to one of the topics as well. You know, I don't let my friends, I don't
Oh,
let
yeah.
politics and religion choose, you know, my friends.
Right.
Because, yeah, we'll get into that one in a minute. But in the end, I truly, and it brings good chills to my body right now, I appreciate the family, the bond that we all have. You know, the kids that we have coming out here, they're amazing kids.
They're great.
They're kids, you know, they're rambunctious, they have fun, they do all that. And, you know, like I said, the events that we're doing, a lot of time, a lot of effort. You know, you got to talk me down sometimes, you know, because I get down that, you know, we didn't have the big crowd and everything that
Right.
we wanted, but like if you step back and we lay all those feelings out on the table and look back and look at all the fun that every single person, every one of the people that's on our team out there is having, that's what matters.
And
You know what I mean?
the even though it wasn't a ton of people, the people that were coming through
Loved it.
were giving all kinds of positive feedback. They
Right.
were laughing. They were carrying on. They were trying to get away from us.
Well, and we were competing against some pretty other big events around as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then the rain. You know, people were probably worried about the rain coming, not coming, things like
Right.
that.
It did cloud up pretty bad.
Yeah, it did.
Late afternoon.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the end, if you have a problem with somebody or even yourself, recognize it and then confront it. Right? Don't let it stew. No, nothing toward you, Stuart, but don't let it stew on there and
funny.
like don't let it bake. You know, just confront it. It's uncomfortable sometimes, and it might not come across the way you intend it to, but holding it in might make it even that much worse later on. So you know, even with kids, you know, it's hard to confront issues with kids, my own kids and everything, but I have to do it. You know, it's uncomfortable. You know, today actually Jennifer posted something about you know, the fentanyl with kids and everything like that. Did you see that video? Did you watch it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's tough. It's very rough. You know, I sent it to Jolie because she's, you know, been influenced and things like that. And I'm like, it's not worth being cool, you know,
Oh, no.
because these types of things, like you might take something from somebody and they don't even know what it is. And you're going to go, oh yeah, let me do it. And, you know, and my kids always tell me, you know, times are different these days. You know, 100% it is. You know, the fentanyl thing wasn't a thing. One little dose can kill you. You know, so trying to be cool and all that and taking that, you know, might be the last thing you ever do. So, you know, have those conversations with your kids. They are uncomfortable, you know, but like you got to have them. And I'm pretty open with my kids about stuff like that, and even like the sex thing and all like that. Like, do it, have fun, do whatever, but there's consequences. You know, just save it for the time because, you know, you get yourself in a really bad situation. So, do we want to talk anything about like? That was a lot of like the first episode, you know, about men's mental health, and then silent. You know, if we don't confront things,
right,
and the empathy and all that stuff, you don't confront things, like they're gonna brew, stew, bake, whatever we want to say.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Fester.
Oh my gosh, I'm
understand
so sorry, y'all.
people, understand who you're hanging out with, get to know them, know their behaviors, don't let first impressions ruin it for you,
Oh no.
because they say first impressions matter. So as a person, we should want to put on a good first impression, but,
But it depends on when these people meet you.
right.
They could be in a bad spot that day.
Yep.
But you're going to judge the book by the cover, and we all know how that story's told.
Look at like a lot of the bikers and stuff out there. They're some of the nicest people out there, giving and protective and all that stuff. But because of the way they look, they're loud motorcycles and all that,
Right.
they're a piece of shit. Like, get to know somebody,
Right.
right? And this actually goes into a good tie into the I don't let politics and religion choose my friends. One of the big things I want to talk about because of some recent happenings is the convenient Christian thing.
Yeah.
Right. I have a pin here that says, "Don't hate me because I sin differently than you." The whole tattoos and you being gay and all that. People will hold us accountable for that, but they're going to judge us because of our tattoos and because you're gay, right? Judging is just as big of a sin as any other sin.
Thou shalt not judge, lest ye be judged yourself.
Yeah. So don't come at me with anything judging me for any reason, because that again, don't hate me because I sin differently than you.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, and whatever your religious belief is, follow it. If you're a Christian, don't judge other people based on how they live their life or how they dress or how they look or anything like that, because you're not the one to judge.
I mean, that's in the Quran. That's in all your major religions, all your main deities.
Yep.
I feel like that's just being a good person.
It is not your job to judge. I put you on this planet, and you will follow my laws. You don't have the right to judge any of these creations.
Right.
They're all my creations, right? So you don't have the right to judge them. You don't have a right to take them out.
Right.
That's my job.
Right.
You don't take yourself out, and you don't take any of mine out.
Right.
Those are part of the commandments in all religions and stuff like that.
Them
Look at them all.
Look it up. Do your own research.
For real.
Basically, be a good person and take care of each other.
Love.
That's my older brother.
The number one thing is love.
Bob told me one time, we were talking about religion, and I said, I believe in mankind. And he's like, well, good luck with that. And I'm like, well, no. Am I going to solve world hunger or world peace? No, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try to be a good person. I'm going to fuck up. I have fucked up, and I will continue to fuck up.
Because you're human.
Genuinely, I want to try to be a good person, right? I live my life by some cliches and things like that, like we talked about in the past. I try to, I have let many people down throughout my life, and I, regretfully, have done things that I can never take back, but all I can do is move forward from that.
And grow.
Right? And
Right.
grow. I've hurt you. You've blatantly told me what things that I've done to hurt you, right? But I wouldn't have known, right, if you didn't tell me. So now it's up to me to intentionally make sure I don't do those things again.
Right. It's just self-awareness
Right.
and accountability.
Right. And we sometimes letting others hold us accountable too is important, because if
I will let myself, I don't care about letting me down. I'll let me down all day long. I don't want to let JoJo down. I don't want to let Joe down. I don't want to let my husband down, my son down, stuff like that. Those people, your opinion of me means more to me than my opinion of me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that I value others' opinion. Well, I kind of do. It's something I'm struggling with and I'm trying to, work through. But I don't necessarily value other people's opinions. It's important to me how I'm perceived, if that makes sense. Like, I don't care if you don't like me because I'm loud and aggressive and talk a lot, then okay, go away. That's on you. If I'm too much, go find less. But if I'm being perceived as, an angry, arrogant, person, like,
piece of shit.
yeah, like I take care about how I'm perceived in general by people. Exactly. My character is important to me.
Not your action, but your actual character, your personality, it's hard to, I don't know what word I'm trying to, it is your character, right? Your character is who you are, how you treat people.
I want people that, to see me and be all like, Well, yeah, she's loud and obnoxious, but she's got a good heart. She's a good
Right,
person.
she's a
You know,
good person.
you can ask her for anything, and if she can help you, she will. You know,
Mhm.
type thing. I mean, I'm not
Just genuinely
perfect.
trying to be a good person.
Yeah, just that's my goal in life is to be a good person and raise a good person.
Right.
So far, I'm doing okay.
Right. Well, you talked about it, with your son. Like, his biggest worry is that the internet's not working. You've done a pretty damn good job.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That, like, you've heard me get frustrated with my kids and stuff, but deep down, my kids are amazing kids. They
Mhm.
have good hearts. They're very caring. Are they the most proactive people with things and responsibilities? No,
But they're kids.
but they're kids, but they are good people. Like,
Right.
where people make fun of people, and I'm not saying they don't make fun of people, but like disabilities, like they are not those kids. They're going to involve, right? They're going to make sure, and they're going to, Landon's got one of the biggest hearts you'll ever see, right? Sometimes to a fault because it hurts himself because he cares too much about other people's feelings when they should be worrying about themselves sometimes.
Mhm.
But again, to a fault, but he's a very good person, and that's what I have to check myself with, right? Like, you've heard some of the songs that I've created with AI and stuff, like our back and forth and stuff. It's like I have to meet him where he's at, and I struggle with that, because our life was different,
Right.
Right.
I was raised by a single mom mostly. It wasn't until my 8th grade year that I moved in with my dad, right? So I didn't have everything given to me. He kind of has, right? So I've had to learn how to defend and do things on my own, right? Living with my mom. Like, I was the man of the house for most of my life living with her. I had to know how to change light bulbs. I had to know how to change tires. And I had to know how to do those things. He hasn't had to know how to do those things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I come at him sideways sometimes, like, boy, you should know this. You know what I mean? And, but on the other hand, I want him to take that initiative to try to learn how to do it. You know what I mean? So it's a struggle. Let's see, there's some comments here. Me going out with Mom and Aunt Marmar really helped me mentally, and it's something that I really enjoy, and I can express myself and have fun and have a break from the world with them. A break from the world.
Oh,
They never will truly know how I appreciate and grateful I am to do something with them, and love how I can come to you, Dad, about anything. I love you and Mom so much. I want to thank JoJo, Mom, and Dad, encouraging me, keeping me on my 90-day weight loss program. Yeah, get your ass out and run, boy.
Don't run, it's bad for your
For
joints.
3 days now out of 90, and I'm proud of myself for doing this. Yeah, you got to keep on doing it. This goes back to, what do we say? Mindset, right?
Yeah.
Mindset matters. I love that we just read those comments because this goes into another topic.
Well, before you go into that, real quick. So last week, the two of you were having a conversation in your office about politics.
Us too?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we were.
And it ties into what your brother had said to you, if you think about it. So what did he tell you about the religion thing?
Oh, good luck with that.
And mankind, right?
Right.
Okay. That mindset is the same mindset. I don't vote. Why don't you vote? Because my vote doesn't matter. It's the same thing that you just said. Right or wrong?
Yeah, it's true.
And you can say the same thing about religion.
That
You
was-
can say, there's
That was only part of
No,
the reason
I-
for not voting.
no,
though.
I understand that. I'm just trying to illustrate.
Right.
It's just like what I was told at the breakfast event. How much of an impact are you going to make running a haunted house? Okay,
If we
wait a
impact
minute.
one person, then it's worth it.
But that's my point.
If more of us did it.
If more of us did a quarter of what we do out here, if more of us voted like the quarter of us do here, if more of us looked at, you have the right to your religion. Religion is just like a penis. It's wonderful that you have one. I'm ecstatic that you love yours, but you don't have the right to shove it down anyone's throat.
Right.
You did not.
Because that's a billboard. That's the best billboard I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's the truth.
Oh, that is great. I'm
But it's
stealing
the
that.
truth.
I still gotta find that damn
But-
billboard.
Every single one of these, they're different things that we've talked about in topics, and it is all relatable in the same exact way. It's all about the mindset. If you get in your mind that my opinion doesn't matter.
Right?
Who did?
Stuart. No, but it's a fact. You know, let's talk about this conversation that we had about religion, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
you say...
It was
you don't
politics,
It was
vote.
not
politics.
religion.
Politics, sorry, politics, yeah. You said you don't vote in the national,
Right.
you know? Why?
Well, I don't. Part of the reason is I don't feel like my vote, my individual vote, ultimately does not matter. The Senate can vote. They can choose which way they go. You know what I mean? They can. Every person in the state can vote one way, and the Senate can go the other, and you have no control over that. Plus, I loathe politics. I don't watch the political debates.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to jump on a bandwagon and make an uninformed decision.
Right,
But I vote in local elections
right,
where it impacts me.
right.
You know?
I want to talk about the... I don't care that you didn't vote. You know, like the whole point of the conversation was I don't let politics and religion choose who my friends are.
Right.
Right.
Because just because you don't vote or you don't like Trump or you don't like Kamala or whoever,
Mhm.
shouldn't matter to me.
It shouldn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't affect.
Who
Now,
you are as a person. It doesn't make you a. You're.
if
I'm
we
sorry.
if we let the topics like cause anger in us, then that's a different story. You know what I mean? But we can talk about these things instead of getting angry and hating you because you know you believe or don't believe in abortion, and I agree or disagree the other way. You know what I mean?
People have a right to believe to believe in what they want to believe in,
Right.
and no one should have the ability to tell somebody what they can and can't do. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned it, so I'm going to roll with it. I am completely 100% against abortions. I think it's wrong, so I will not get one. But who am I? Who the hell am I to tell someone else they can't?
Right.
You know, it's not my. That's not my place. It's no one's place. You know,
Right.
that's my opinion on it. I don't agree with it, so I won't get one.
Right.
But
For you.
right?
You see,
So-
I'm along those lines, but I have a belief that I don't feel the federal government should pay for it.
No, I mean I don't
That's
think
my
it's.
opinion.
But I mean,
I think it should be if it's medical insurance and you're because think about it. If medical insurance,
I don't think the federal government pays for it.
no, there's Planned Parenthood funding that goes to.
Well,
abortion
but
and
yeah,
stuff
but there's
like
Planned
that.
Parenthood funding for birth control and all of that stuff too. You know, like I mean,
Yeah, but I don't. There's things. It's like it's not cosmetic, but they don't pay for cosmetic things, you know. And Planned Parenthood for having an abortion, for you're the one that decided to have sex. Now rape, I
Right.
do believe in abortion.
Yeah, the
for rape.
14-year-old girl that gets raped
100%.
and she's impregnated.
Because that's like she did not intend to do that. Now,
Right,
people
exactly.
who knowingly had sex, knew what they were getting themselves to, who knew the potential, and the condom broke and things like that. Well, there's consequences. Now, federal funding for condoms and preventative things like that, I do agree with because that's population control and you need that. You know what I mean? But for somebody who knowingly had sex, did all that, and be like, now the federal government come and pay for an abortion. That's just a personal opinion, though.
Right.
You know, but let the states handle it as well, right? Like just because you want an abortion, you know, let the states decide. That's why we are the way we are, right? We've evolved over time to let the states, let the federal government do certain things. I don't think the federal government should pay for it. I don't think that the state government should pay for it. That's just my opinion. You know what I mean? Because that's our taxpayer money that should be going to things, you know, that are affecting the overall good of people, not an individual that decided to have sex and the condom broke, or they didn't wear a condom and they were using other methods, you know, and then got pregnant. Well, you knew what you were doing and you knew the consequences or the potential consequences of it. That's just my opinion. Now, there's a lot of people that will bring religion and things into that, you know, like the Bible says this, and, you know, and was it Charlie Kirk is one of them, was like, every child, even if they're raped, if someone's raped and has a child, they still shouldn't be getting an abortion because that person still deserves life. You know, there's a lot of those big debates about that. Like,
I don't think you have a right to say what should and shouldn't be done until you are in that situation.
right,
And as a male, they would never be in that situation.
right.
You know?
Well, they might be the one that so
They can empathize. You know, they can empathize. They can hopefully understand, you know, but I can't say that if I got, you know, raped, so awkward to say on live, but TikTok, you can't say that. If I got raped and ended up pregnant, that I don't know that mentally I could withstand. I would hope that I'd be strong enough, but I don't know.
right,
I've never been in that situation. I just know that for me, like, I'm going to take responsibility for my actions. I'm married, but, you know, before I got married, you know, if I was dating somebody and we weren't responsible enough to use protection, like, it's not the child's fault,
right.
you know, and I don't know. My angle's a little bit different though, because I suffer with infertility. I've had 4 miscarriages and stuff. So it's, you know, I'm a little bit,
Right. It's different.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Now, so this wasn't meant to go into this type of conversation, but people who have, let's say, a woman and a man have sex, the woman doesn't want the kid and wants to have an abortion, but then the man wants it. You know, yes, the woman does have to carry and conceive and do all that stuff. You know, but it's still the man's seed, right, that planted it, and he's like, "That's my child. I want that child." But then, like, you know, that there's that side of the conversation as well, because if the woman wants the abortion but the man doesn't, like, she's
That's
totally
her body,
forgetting
though.
about,
Like, I understand that is his DNA inside of her body, but that is her body, and people don't realize what pregnancy does to you. Like,
Yeah.
it I mean, I'm sure you've
It
been through 2 of them.
Like,
Yeah, like, I don't think that anyone should be forced to go through that if they truly don't want to. But again, I believe in being responsible, you know, be
Right.
responsible,
Yeah.
use protection, you know,
Yep.
be smart about it, you know, but I don't necessarily think that it sucks for the man, you know, because if a man knocks up a woman and he doesn't want the kid, but she does, she can keep it. It's up to her, you know, but ultimately that's her life being put at risk, you know,
Right.
and why should I put
think
my
a
life
lot
at
of
risk for something that you
police,
want? You know what I
Right.
mean?
I think
Like,
a lot of the political views and stuff are life of the child, right, or the mother, right. If the mother is going to die and everything, yes, they probably should get an abortion, right? You know,
but like, I understand the whole concept of life at conception, because for me, with my 4 miscarriages, they were all for, like, first trimester miscarriages. So 3 of the 4 I passed naturally at home. I didn't have to have, you know, the surgery to have it removed or anything. But it was just, someone once made the comment to me, well, at least you weren't further along. You know, at least it wasn't a baby yet. It was a baby to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In my mind, in my heart, it was a baby to me.
Right.
You know, but it's not physically a baby at that point yet. You know what I mean? Especially if you know, I don't think abortion should be outlawed. I think it should be regulated.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? There should be regulations put on it. But if it's an early termination of the pregnancy, that's not. Yeah, there's a heartbeat, but the heart's only beating because the mother's body is pumping the blood into the baby's body to do it. You know, the baby cannot survive outside of the mother's womb. Therefore,
this is where Charlie Kirk will start to say, okay, what happens to someone who has dementia and can't take care of themselves? They're still a person. Are you going to kill them?
they're alive already, though. They
Well, that's what he. I'll listen to the base, but I don't. I'm not saying I don't
I'm not gonna
care
say that.
enough. One way or another, I personally just don't feel that the federal government should pay for it. I don't think the state government should pay for it. I think there's enough organizations out there that believe in this enough that can raise enough money to pay for the abortions that are needed from a regulation perspective, right? And then Stuart says the Electoral College has vote. So back to that, yes, the electoral college, and I don't know enough about it to say when the last time the electoral college always does the voting, right?
Mhm.
But the electoral college gets the votes because the majority votes took that, right? The majority votes are what gets the electoral votes. You know what I mean? So if you don't vote, then yes, your vote won't go towards the electoral college's vote.
But here's the thing: I have no interest in watching any of the political debates, or I have no interest in researching. I'm 30. I'll be 38 this year. I can't tell you the difference between Democrat and Republican.
Right.
I don't fucking know. I don't know which one is the elephant and which one's the donkey. I don't know. I don't know which one's red and which one's blue.
Right.
Like I don't deal with politics. I can't stand it. I'm not going to go out there and cast an uninformed decision.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like,
vote just to vote because you don't like what you've been hearing about somebody.
right? Like, you don't know. Yeah, no, I'm not. I feel like that's doing just as much disservice.
Right. Yep, I agree with that 100%. So
Do you have no idea what a gay Republican is?
What's a game?
Half of the world doesn't either. Because it's unheard of.
I don't get that joke because I don't know anything about Republicans and Democrats.
Because it's unheard of.
Oh.
A gay Republican? What?
Why? Why
It's
is it unheard of?
uh,
Fill me in. What's up?
Because, the gays are the Democrats. The Republicans are the anti-gays.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
it's,
But I've got my tattoos, and I'm gay, and I'm a Republican, and I voted for
I'm
Trump.
struggling to get the straw in my mouth.
Like,
perspective. I don't like politics either because I've seen things in politics that just I don't know. You're supposed to vote for the people, not for what the leader is
right.
doing, right?
Right.
In politics, but I digress.
It's
from that
10:15.
perspective. Yep. So, any other topics that we've not touched on yet? The mental health thing is a huge one, right? That's
Well, we've hit almost. I think we've hit every one of the topics, haven't we?
Well,
other than the music,
Mental
Well,
health-
yeah.
mental health is at the core of everything in life. If you're not mentally healthy, then every area of your life's going to suffer. So
if we could summarize a lot of like the podcasts, like the mental health, be a good person, hold yourself and others accountable, confront situations that bother you, because a lot of times that builds onto mental health and depression and things like that. Speaking of the mental health and everything like that, sometimes voting on issues that give us the right to choose instead of being forced one way or another is important. This is true, but we have to believe enough in something to make that jump and make that vote, right? I didn't vote for a long time, It wasn't until 2008 that I actually voted for the first time. Because I didn't really care enough, and I don't know if I really care enough now, honestly. But I feel I want to do my duty and do it. But the music thing, we didn't talk about the music, but we have a song that we're going to be playing at the end like we always do. And Landon's still doing the thing with the music. He sent me 2 songs that he's been working on, and although I don't like the auto-tune and everything, they are catchy, and he's getting a lot of likes and stuff out
Well, the
there.
one you played today, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one he
I
literally
enjoyed
had
that,
just
yeah.
sent me. So, what matters?
But music is universal.
Yep.
If you're in a bad mood, you can, any mood that you're in, you can either ride that mood with the music that you listen to, or you can bring yourself out of it.
Yeah.
At what?
You can influence your own mood based off of the mood of the music you're listening to.
Mhm. But as far as like mental health, physical health, it's all tied together. Your body is universal too. You got to be right up here, everywhere, and recognizing the signs and stuff like that.
Yep.
The 4 Agreements, if that's the book that you've never heard of, look it up, find it, read it.
The 4 Agreements.
The 4
Is it
Agreements.
available on Audible?
Yes. Yep.
One of the things I want to talk about is Jonathan, Psychotic Circus of Savannah. I've literally used this phrase that he mentioned, right? The things that we do, sometimes we have a reason for it, but we cannot use them as excuses. There's no excuse to treat someone like shit.
There's a difference
Right.
between an explanation and an excuse.
Yep.
Right.
You know,
So
I'm sorry I was a bitch to you last night. I'm PMSing and I let my emotions run wild.
that doesn't make it right.
That doesn't make it right, but that's an explanation. Versus whatever, I don't care that I made you mad. I'm on my period, I'm PMSing. Whatever.
Right.
That's not it doesn't give you an excuse, it doesn't give you the right to be a shitty person.
Right.
I've had a rough day. That doesn't give you the right to be a shitty person.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you taking it out on this person? You know,
or that person also had a good day. Now you just made their day worse.
yeah, now you just ruined their day.
Or they had a very good day and now you just fucked it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I'm very big on because with my borderline personality, well, that's actually not my diagnosis anymore. It changed. But with my emotion regulation issues, I will snap at Dustin or at Siler, and I have to sit there and go back and be like, I'm sorry. And I've gotten to the point now where I'll do it during the conversation instead of coming back later. Like
it's crazy because I've been able to do that too.
It's like I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We need to end this conversation now because I've had a shitty day. I'm upset and angry, and I feel like I'm taking it out on you, and you don't deserve it. It's not you. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve my anger or my attitude right now. I need to go, to the bedroom and watch TV for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. I just
Put
need
yourself in time
Yeah,
out.
I need to put myself in time out and
Doesn't it feel good though that you're able to catch that? Yes.
It's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. And I tell Justin all the time because I try to explain to him. I want him to understand me. I'm not giving you an excuse. I'm trying to explain to you why I'm acting the way that I am so that you understand me.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's amazing with it. That man's got the patience of a saint. Why did my camera go off?
It didn't.
No, it's
Moving
just
it
the
right to
mic.
your face.
Oh, I set up. I'm too close to the camera. My bad.
Peanut says, "I'm proud of you, Ole. We're all proud of you.
Amen.
I mean,
And Amanda.
you should be proud of
And
yourself.
Margaret.
Because
I'm working on that.
So, I had a manager. I don't know if I mentioned this in the past. I may have, but I was down, and he said, self-actualization. You have to realize the impact that you actually make, and you have to be proud of yourself. This is what I try to get my kids to understand. If I know that you're proud of yourself for what you've done, I'm going to be that much more prouder of you. So be proud of what you're doing, and I will be proud of you no matter what.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the things that you're doing with the SFX and all that, we're not just trying to toot your horn. The shit is amazing.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that.
I seriously think that my brain is wired different or wrong or something because I don't see it. I see all the makeup and stuff on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, and I know that comparison is you're not supposed to compare, but they're professionals, and I don't feel like I'm anywhere near their level.
How long do you think they've been doing it though? This is your first time doing this, right? Do you think that every one of those people molded and sculpted and applied and had these fucking fangs coming out of their face and they're staying on and come on now, you have to start somewhere, and you've started,
Right.
and the drive is what's going to make you better. But you have to realize that what you're doing is pretty fucking awesome. You know what I mean?
I'm a lot further in that journey than I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when you say this is one of our makeup artists, and I'd be like, amateur makeup,
I still have you in there.
amateur makeup artist,
TAMG makeup artist.
A lot.
Leela, TAMG makeup artist is what her contact is. Actually, no, I think I just changed it to
Highway 127.
127.
But it took. It took a year of posting my content on TikTok and getting feedback from others, and doing makeup looks, and sending them to Haunt Family and getting their feedback and stuff for me to even get to the point where I felt comfortable enough referring to myself as a makeup artist. And it's just it's a struggle sometimes. I don't see it. All I see is this could have been better and this could have been better, but I'm getting better at acknowledging that I am only human. I need to stop trying to for perfection. Perfection doesn't exist.
It will never exist.
Right.
We were just talking about this earlier. No matter how good we do, there's always ways to improve it.
Right. That's why I don't believe in the whole practice makes perfect. No, practice makes improvement.
Practice makes better. Yep, 100%. And that's what we have to realize.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus on perfection. Focus on growing.
Right.
Think about Michael Jordan. the first 5 years he was
Who's
shooting
that?
baskets.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You know,
Now I'm looking
He's-
really short.
you know,
Sure.
he wasn't, you know, what he became, but it was after that 5 year period, and he just kept going and going and going and going and growing and growing and growing. That's what you're doing.
I wish I'd have found this sooner. I really do. If I'd have found this at Abby's age, man, there's no telling where I'd be or what I would know.
Well, that's
you
a
know?
good point, though. Like,
But
here
you're
to
where you
encourage
are, the way you
her,
are,
you know, and the other
for a
ones
reason.
to keep
Right.
going. Like, don't get when you have a passion for something. Like this whole haunt, this nonprofit thing. Like I've come to you many times. Like, is this worth it? Like, it is so much stress, and like but in the end, we mentioned it earlier. You see everybody out there. Nobody's complaining.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's
Everybody's
some,
laughing and
there's
having
some
fun.
dancing, having a good time. Like that right there is what matters.
Everybody
All the
smiles
other
for the
other
photo
benefits, you know what I
after
mean?
12 hours
Right.
Right.
of running around like a freaking numbnut,
It's
and they're still smiling, taking pictures with you and stuff like that for the next, 45
they're
minutes to
still
an
hanging
hour.
out,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nobody's wanting to go home.
I mean, some people, but I mean,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong
right.
with that either. It's just, but that's what matters. All the
That's
like
where
the money that we're making to give towards the causes and everything. That's just another benefit. You know what I mean? And that's the intention of all this. But so is the happiness and the camaraderie and the family
Right.
and all that. And we are ethical people around here. We intentionally do things the right way and again hold each other accountable. Like we've
to the best of our ability.
to the best of our ability. And we will literally ask, is that an ethical thing? How many times have we done that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it is getting late. We do have to get up early.
Yeah.
I appreciate those who have joined.
Please come out tomorrow.
Yes, 100%.
It's a nonprofit, you know.
All
Let-
proceeds are being donated.
That's
and
right.
come watch me do makeup.
Yes, come see LA and Smiley
LA.
do some makeup. But support Sabrina. This
Yes.
girl is
Absolutely.
doing
She's
Amazing
amazing
things.
tattoo history here in Middle Georgia. She's done some amazing work on my arm. Her husband has this arm here. You know, they've done some amazing work on me. Again, self-actualization. Realize what you're doing is amazing, just like Sabrina's doing. This lady, she has been doubted because she's a female in the tattoo industry, but she's doing the damn thing, and she's doing big damn things out there.
Yeah.
Right? And people,
okay. Honest question. This year, like 2025,
Mhm.
have you not noticed that when I do a look, I'm talking about how proud I am of it, and like I'm not tearing it down.
You did it today.
That's progress.
Yeah, that is, and that's good. I'm
Yeah,
proud of you for
it's
doing
progress.
that. You have to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, like I told you, I'm gonna give you honest feedback. I told you,
Yeah, I want honest feedback.
airbrushing your eyes would have been better. You know, like
Right.
I'm like a makeup artist, but it gives us
No,
something.
that's actually my intent when I'm doing it for for the makeup for the expo. But we got to be here at 6:30 in the morning, and
Right.
I didn't want to dirty up my airbrush
But
tonight.
dude, I'm literally sitting here, and the teeth are like
Yeah.
interlocking, and like not everybody can do that.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
what you have to realize too, right? So, and the bubbles, the eyes, and like whatever you got going on there is just like not everybody
I feel
can
like
do that.
everybody could do it if they tried.
I do believe that too. I do believe that,
If they put the effort
Yeah.
into it. Yeah.
but that's the
But how many
difference.
are doing
the
that?
passion, the drive,
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, what does your song say, right?
Right?
Like,
You call it aggression. I call it drive.
Yep. Like, and that matters, right? And that shows you do see self-actualization. What you're doing is good, right? And there, no matter how
I do.
good you get at it, there's always room for improvement. And if
Right.
that improvement is just teaching somebody else the same craft,
Yeah.
you're improving.
Oh, and I don't believe in gatekeeping at
No,
all.
no. Mm-mm.
I not at all. If I know something and somebody else wants to know how to do it, I'm going to share that information. Because
Right.
if I help someone grow, I grow
Tribal
too.
knowledge.
Yeah, if I help somebody grow, I grow as a person too. You know?
Pappy said he's going to come out and support. You're going to come out and support Pappy?
All right.
We're going to have two packs.
You can't have me gold.
Me gold.
Me gold.
Oh,
yeah.
Me gold.
I don't-
That was so funny. That
I don't-
woman in
I
Walmart.
want to push on like trying to make money or anything, but we will have shirts for the podcast. They are mental health shirts. They're going to be called "Fuck the Stigma" because
the blue and purple one is
we got 3 different designs. I got some DTF stuff coming, but he says I'm the original.
Right.
You're the original, Pappy. But
You're the original because you're older.
Right.
Just kidding.
But Fuck the Stigma shirts, they will be coming soon. They have some sayings on the back, basically along the lines of if you don't like what it says on the front of the shirt, maybe you should pay attention to what's going on around you. Silence sucks. Don't be silent, and don't let others be silent. Be there for them.
Yeah.
Any other thing? Anything else?
I'm ready to wash my face.
Y'all have a blessed night.
Have a blessed night. We will talk to y'all later, and we hope that you come out and see us if you're watching and you are local.
You probably won't see me. I'll be hiding in the makeup room.
You'll be out there.
You're right.
Love y'all.
You better be.
I know.
Thank you for joining us here on Courage to Converse. Our intention is to discuss tough topics, reflect on personal experiences, and explore paths for growth and understanding. I want to acknowledge that some of these conversations may have touched on sensitive or challenging issues. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or support. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available to help. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME to 741741 to reach the crisis text line. Remember, our goal here is to spark meaningful conversations while fostering respect, understanding, and personal growth. See you next time.
It's heavy, man. They don't see it. We're not allowed to feel, but sometimes it's too much.
You tell me man up, keep my tears inside, push my feelings down, let my pride decide. I clock in, clock out, in this cycle I'm trapped, providing for my family, but my soul's been zapped. The weight's on my shoulders, no room to share, but the silence, man, it's harder to bear. I'm supposed to protect, provide, and stay strong, but even steel bends when the pressure's on too long. They see the provider, not the cracks in the mask. A man's gotta carry it all, don't even ask. I treat her like a queen, I raise them right, but who's got my back when I'm losing the fight? I'm holding the weight of the world, it's pulling me down. Screaming inside, but I don't make a sound. I'm more than this mask, I'm more than this role, but the silence might swallow me whole. I'm breaking, I'm shaking, can't take it no more, but they don't see the man behind the closed door. The alarm clock screams, time to do it again. Punch the clock, feed the kids, hide the pain within. My son sees a hero, my wife sees a king, but the cracks in the mirror show a different thing. Can't ask for help, nah, that's weakness, bro. So I carry the weight when no one can go. The pressure's of ice, squeezing my chest, but I'll die with this burden before I confess. Every man's got his limit, but they don't wanna know. It's lonely in this fight when there's nowhere to go. Sometimes we break and sometimes it's too late. If only we could talk before we seal our fate. I'm holding the weight of the world, it's pulling me down. I'm screaming inside, but I don't make a sound. I'm more than this mask, I'm more than this role, but the silence might swallow me whole. I'm breaking, I'm shaking, can't take it no more, but they don't see the man behind the closed door.
Let me speak, let me feel, let me cry just once. We're human too, not machines at the front.
Before it's too late, before we fade away, give us a chance to heal, to say what we need to say. The weight of the world, it's heavy, man, and we all need a hand.
Let me speak, let me feel, let me cry just once. We're human too, not machines at the front. Before it's too late, before we fade away, give us a chance to heal, to say what we need to say. The weight of the world, it's heavy, man, and we all need a hand.